Conventional cars were rare luxuries, and for many people the unwieldy motorcycle and sidecar was the only means of transport. But they were far from dry or comfortable. So aeronautical designer Laurie Bond devised a way of using existing motorcycle technology while keeping the driver and passenger dry. Bond saw his Minicar as the future of motoring. All Bond needed was a place to make the cars, and he immediately thought of the Preston-based motor repair business run by Colonel Gray. He knew their contract with the Ministry of Supply was about to run out.
We had a good trained workforce of 80, 90 men and one or two ladies. And I was approached by Lawrence Bond to see if I would rent the factory to him. He'd obviously heard that our contract was going to expire, and that he wanted to make a small three-wheeled car which he had designed, and for which he'd built, in fact, by then, a small prototype. And I said no, I wouldn't let the factory to him, but I might make the cars for him. And then he left it with me for a couple of days, whilst I drove it over the hills and far away. I just felt that here was something which might appeal to the motorcyclist, because he could drive it on his motorcycle license, and he could get his wife inside and maybe a child at a pinch out of the bad weather.
Colonel Gray took a gamble on a car aimed at weather-weary motorcycle users. The first ever British microcar, the Mark A Bond Minicar, was exhibited at the 1949 motorcycle show.
We had a sizable stand with 3 or 4 of these cars on it, and to our absolute amazement, we were inundated with people. Dozens and dozens, in fact hundreds of people. And there came the time when I had to send for reinforcements because my staff were so weary.
Colonel Gray was swamped with orders, and the car went into production, starting with around 15 vehicles a week. By the 1st of June 1950, they'd made 1,000 cars.
To celebrate the fact that we were producing our 1,000th car that day, I laid on some barrels of beer to be put in the factory, and at 6 o'clock invited everybody to come along and have a drink. And I was very amused by one fellow who'd only joined us that day, who sidled up to me with a tankard in his hand and said, "This is a damn fine firm to work for." I think he expected that sort of treatment every day.
After the success of the Mark A, Colonel Gray developed the minicar design. The Mark C was a bigger car altogether. The extra space allowed the engine and front wheel to swing through 180 degrees, so the car could turn on its own length. Handy, because in order to drive the car on a motorcycle licence, you weren't allowed a reverse gear. Having just left the Merchant Navy, Douglas Ferreira was in search of a new car.
I came ashore and immediately bought myself a new Bond Minicar, a brand new one at a Mark C. And I thought I'd take a holiday, so off I went abroad. And it was perhaps a mad thing to do, but I went down into Italy, down to Rome and Naples in January, and up to the Winter Olympics at Cortina, and then over passes which were officially closed over into Austria, and all the way on to Vienna. It was cold, sort of minus 25 centigrade in Vienna, and for much of the way home. And the car did well. It did better than I did. I got severe toothache and frostbitten toes, and it was quite a trip. Eventually, Colonel Gray got to know about me and invited me to join the firm as their representative. Their one and only representative. It was just the sales manager and myself. But it meant that I had to visit all the agents for Bonds, everywhere from Penzance to Wick, and out into Ireland eventually as well. And of course I had to travel in a Bond Minicar. I reckon at one time I'd done about 300,000 miles in Bonds. During the summer, especially with the hood down, it's extremely pleasant to have a small open car. I just love it.
But Bond himself was not satisfied. He left the minicar project soon after the Mark A to create many more weird and wonderful microcar designs.